Hello and welcome to Eat the Damn Cake. I am Carly.
And I'm Maddie.
And we are back at it again after a week that we had off, but we still delivered a podcast for you all because we don't take days off.
No days off here.
But it feels like a while since we've been in the office, and we are so excited to be back this week. If you have not listened to our podcast yet, we are about inclusivity in the fitness industry and just kind of no matter where you're at in your fitness journey, everyone is welcome. Invite your friends, invite your family, invite your pets. Here we are. We're on a journey. Buckle up.
Every week, Carly's description of this podcast changes, and I just wait to hear what it's going to be. And this week, it was invite your dogs, invite your cats, invite your grandparents, invite everybody. And it's true, but it's just funny because I wait to see what's Carly going to pull out today.
I see if you're going to jump in and do the description.
I thought you were going to be like, Maddie, tapping on it, and you're like, it's just about, like, we literally have been recording for 1 year. We know what it's about, but we give you a different description every week.
But it's all around the same thing.
It's like we're
tiptoeing
around the same.
Well, this week we are so excited because we have a very, very special guest on. I know him as one of my riders, but his name is Conrad Dresdale. And we are going to start the conversation by talking about college athletics and then about how he's in grad school for social work and how he used fitness as a tool through recovery. So super excited to dive on into this podcast. Welcome, Conrad.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. We just kind of want to welcome you and get you going right away. Where did you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What's your mom's name? What's your maiden name?
Marcella. First of all, it's all my internet passwords. So.
Oh, okay. You're like, everyone knows now.
Yeah. No, I grew up outside New York City in Bronxville, New York, which is part of Westchester County.
Okay.
And yeah, my mom is Marcella.
Love her.
Sweet angel. I already love her.
Is she Italian?
No, actually, she's Irish. So I'm Irish and Scottish.
Very
Love
nice.
that.
A little Russian too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice little mix.
We're a little Irish, I think. And
Yeah.
Scottish. We have a little Scottish in us.
No, my dad always said a fifth of scotch.
No.
That's a
No.
joke.
We actually do.
I
promise we actually do.
I think that was a joke, like a fifth of scotch, because it's like,
And no.
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Anyways.
maybe.
Well, yeah. So I grew up there. I went to Rye Country Day, which is like a private school in Rye.
Ryan, New York.
Yeah, Rye. Yeah.
Don't know what just happened there.
And yeah, I went to college to play football.
Where'd you play?
Played at Bowdoin,
Bowdoin.
Oh my God, Bowdoin, so
Yeah.
fancy.
Polar Bears.
Did you have fun?
Yeah. Well, my freshman year, I actually hated it because coming from outside New York, I was in the boonies.
Yeah.
Brunswick, Maine. And then it took me like literally 3 years to like really appreciate like the beauty of Maine. And,
Yeah.
I was going to say Bowdoin's in Maine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up there, right?
It's like 20 minutes north of Portland.
It's,
Yeah.
It's like an hour and a half once you cross the border.
And it's
Oh,
so
wow.
cold, right? It's like freezing in the
cold.
winter.
I personally love it because I run so hot. So
You
yeah.
like the cold.
Well,
Yeah.
you're not going to love this room.
This room is
this room
an
runs hot.
incubator. Every time I walk in here and I think, oh, I'll be at a good temperature, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and then this fur tablecloth doesn't help
it's like
on
a
your legs.
blanket on your legs. So what did you study in undergrad?
So it's totally irrelevant to my entire life, but I studied poli-sci.
That's okay.
Oh, wow.
Art school.
I mean, that's awesome. But most people at this point in our lives, we don't really, like, me and Carly are lucky we're in what we went to school for, but I think 98% of the people I know are not.
Yeah, freshman year, I saw a professor who looked just like Steve Carell, and I was
Love
really
that.
big in the office, and I was like, this guy's awesome. So I just took all of his classes.
And it
then,
was-
Yeah. By a sophomore year, I'd already finished half.
Oh my God.
Oh my! Was he similar to Michael Scott?
Yeah, he had like the, not similar to Michael Scott, but he had the same mannerisms.
Okay, well, we love
I like
that.
that.
Yeah.
So it was probably a very entertaining class
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
We love
Oh
that.
my gosh, I love Michael Scott. I love The Office.
We are like
When they
big
took it
on
off
The Office.
Netflix, that was probably one of my darkest days.
But it's on Peacock now for anyone that was watching.
Yeah.
If you have Xfinity, you still got it. So after you went to Bowdoin, where did you go? What did you do?
So when I was in college, I started a music blog which was
Ooh.
called Fresh on Campus. I started it my sophomore year with my freshman year roommate,
That's so cool.
who was a comp sci major.
Okay.
And this was like 2008. I'm like a lot older than you guys. And this was like when like Drake and Kid Cudi and all these rappers came out. So like I'd be like in the stacks of Bowdoin and like listening.
Yeah.
To, like trying to like discover like datpiff.com, which I think still exists.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it still does. Probably does.
And I would just like listen to Drake, and Drake's like my favorite artist. Just
He
straight
loves
up.
Drake. I
love
play
Drake
it for
so
him in
much.
class whenever he's in
Yeah.
class.
So I was like that annoying guy in like the communal living space in my freshman dorm who like never wore headphones.
I love that though.
Because I thought my music taste was the best. So obviously
Everyone
wanted
has
hear,
to, yeah.
But luckily, one of my roommates really liked what I was playing, and then we would just kind of like banter. And like I was like an awkward, 18-year-old, so I was like just trying to break the ice any way I could.
Yeah. As we all do.
Yeah.
Still do. I still do.
And he was like, dude, like, this Drake guy's really sick. Like, you should, like, make a website called, like, musicgenie.com, like, because you, like, are predicting all these sick songs. And I was like, well, first of all, dude, I'm in football practice, and this is, like, my mini escape when I'm, like, studying. So,
Yeah.
no way. Fast forward to sophomore year, it's, like, my winter break, and he finally convinced me to start this website. And we got up to, like, 12,000 unique visitors.
Wow.
We got featured on the Today Show. We were on a segment about how teenagers are consuming music through
Oh
blogs.
my gosh.
With like Pigeons and Planes. We did a show for Mac Miller at Colby College.
What?
We hosted
I love
RIP.
Mac Miller.
I know. Rest in peace. Love
I've been
Mac Miller
listening
so
to the Spins on repeat recently. I just
Yeah.
love that song so much.
He's a really
much.
sweet guy.
He
Is he?
really.
Oh,
Yeah, it's very sad.
That's so
So
sad.
sad.
He's Colby. Where's Colby?
Colby's also in Maine.
Okay,
It's in
so
Waterville.
isn't that?
Did you do stuff at like other colleges often, or try to get stuff
So
going?
we try to promote some. So when we launched the website, I like that winter break. I like just like spread word of mouth with all my buddies when we were all at home.
Amazing.
And they were, at schools all across the country.
Right.
So I think Georgetown had like a really big, like listening or viewership.
Yeah.
Listenership. And so we like promoted, which meant at this time just like paying for parties and just like creating this like big banner.
Yeah.
That said Fresh on Campus behind it.
That's so
Cool.
cool.
And we did a couple in New York City, like during the summertime. which
That's
was fun.
so
But-
awesome.
But it was sick. It was like this hobby that I just did in my free time, and I was like, "Oh, this could be a career."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that I think going into my junior year, I was like, "Oh, maybe I want to do like music," and so I interned at Republic Records,
Okay.
part of Universal,
Nice.
which was like so different than talking to these like college rappers. Like
Mm-hmm.
we walked in, and like Nicki Minaj was like walking behind me with her like massive ass, and I'm just
And
like,
you're like, what
yeah, this is
is
like,
happening?
oh my god, yeah. And
Like I
just,
thought that was fake. Like I didn't think that was real.
And it was like this really kind of interesting moment where I was like exposed to the music industry, and I was like, oh man, this is really what I want to do. Like what I like to do in my free time could be a full career.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so I interned there over the summer and was like, okay, I want to do this again. And then we did another, Fresh on Campus, kept growing, and I like really wanted a full-time job. And I talked to Monty Littman, who's the president of Universal Republic, and he called me Lamb Chop because I'm a bigger guy and I like play college football. And
That was your nickname.
yeah,
Lamb Chop.
like there was one time we did a showcase and it was Ray J came in to do
Oh my god.
Sexy Can I? Like it was like when that song came out,
I love
and
that
we
Sexy can I? We don't
And-
have the rights to that. Sorry.
and I remember Monty was like, "Lamb Chop, like come do something," and Ray J's like, "Who's Lamb Chop?" And like,
Oh my gosh.
So-
So it must have been surreal for you because
Yeah.
you're in college and you're surrounded by these A-list celebrities
yeah,
that are
That's-
just like producing music in front of your eyes, and it's a hobby that you could have only dreamed of meeting these people, and then you're in it with them.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So did you play football all 4 years, or did this take over?
no, I played football 4 years.
You did.
That's amazing.
What position did you play?
I was an offensive guard.
Wow.
Yeah, lineman.
Did you love it?
It was a grind. It
Yeah.
was.
It's
I-
day in, day out.
Yeah, I'm so happy that I had that experience because I don't know if playing like a college, like you guys were college athletes,
Yeah.
like that experience of that grind with a team, like you can't. That's like life lessons that
I feel like whenever people ask us, did you like it? I'm like, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I really loved the fact that I did it and I didn't dislike it while I was doing it, but it was a lot.
I had someone ask me, would you ever do it again?
No.
And it's so funny whenever you ask a college athlete that, usually their answer is no.
It's because you're a
Because we know.
athlete student. You're
not a student athlete, you're an athlete student.
Yeah.
athletics are top. And
Yeah.
then everything trickles underneath it. Even
Yeah.
though coaches are like, no, it's not. I'm like, well, I probably would have gotten maybe a C+ instead of a C-. I'm not saying, I'm not shooting that high.
Yeah.
But probably would have done a little better on my exam.
I think for me, because I wasn't someone who was a star out the gate. I fought for playing time my entire 4 years.
Basically, yeah. Same.
And it really showed me what hard work was. You can just literally work your ass off.
Yep.
Every single day, try as hard as you can, and you still won't get a starting job. And
It's not guaranteed.
That day and day of grind and waking up I'm sure you guys had 5
Lift.
a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine January 24th, Brunswick, Maine, ice cold. You wake up at 5 in the morning and you're just huddled up, knowing you have to run do suicides and sprints. You know,
outside?
until you throw up in a bubble, where the tennis courts were. And you literally are just by yourself, just walking towards this light, which is literally hell, because you know what you have to do.
You're
in
I
there.
know what I'm walking into right
It's your
now.
thoughts, you and your thoughts just walking in.
I remember that. Walking to the pool in the winter or being the only ones on campus during intersession.
Yeah.
While everyone's home enjoying their families, you're just walking
We only
alone
got
on
to-
campus.
We got to go home for 1 week
8
during winter
days.
break.
Well, winter sports is the worst because
The worst.
in both semesters.
Yes.
Yeah, spring,
Yeah.
at least we had a little bit of a break.
Yeah, no, it was,
Yeah.
horrible. I loved it. Kind of.
Bob, we love you.
I know.
We know
Bob, our swim coach listens and he's always like, what the hell? And we're like, we love you. We loved doing it. But he always would joke and be like, can't wait till I see you do masters one day. I'm like, you will never catch me back in the pool. I will never.
Doing laps.
I did coach for a little while, but that was as close I would get to the
Yeah.
dip my toes in.
All right. So this brings you to graduating college, right?
Yes.
What happens when you graduate college?
So when I graduate college, I move to New York City, and also just as a prerequisite to before I graduated, I got diagnosed with stage 2 testicular cancer. So I had to actually take an academic suspension or academic time
Leave,
of absence.
yeah.
Yeah.
My senior spring, because
Holy
literally
shit.
I discovered it the winter going into my last semester of college, and
Oh my
I-
gosh.
if you guys remember, at least for me, I felt I was such an asshole. My senior year, my world was so small. All I cared about, I wasn't thinking about jobs or anything.
No.
I was just spring weekend.
Yeah,
It was just my world was and then
Yeah.
obviously something like this just
Rocks your world.
exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're still so young at that
Yeah.
point too, where it's
It's scary. Stage 2? That's
Stage
scary.
2. But yeah, so I tried to go back, and then once I got the official diagnosis, I was like, okay, well, I have to have the surgery or do chemo.
yeah.
So I ended up just taking the semester off.
Mm-hmm.
I had a procedure in March, which was I have a scar from my sternum to my belly button. It was they ripped out my entire lymphatic system.
Oh my gosh.
From in my stomach, because that's where the cancer grows.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a period in between when I knew I was getting that surgery and when I got it, where I was I might die. I my sense of mortality was insane. And because I was home, I was in New York City, and I kind of was given I had this just card I could pull.
Yep.
I'd go into the city. I really got into the club scene,
Mm-hmm.
and got to know managers and people who ran these clubs, and was just I just want a table here. And my parents were okay, because I wasn't making any money, so
Right.
I'm hey, mom and dad, I might die, so let me spend the weekend at the Standard.
Yeah.
And I got a taste for the nightlife of New York with this instant literally YOLO attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
so that March I had that procedure, and thankfully it all went well, and I've been in remission from cancer for over 6 years now.
Hell
Thank
yeah.
God.
Thank God.
But once I had that mindset, after that happened, it's okay, I'm okay. So what now?
Yeah.
I couldn't turn that off for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I was I thought like I was living every day as if it was my last, and like in like a very toxic way in terms of like drinking and using drugs. And I was like, I think this is cool. So I graduated, get a job, and I moved into the city right away.
What part of the city did you move into?
Murray Chill.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Murray Chill, classic.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I drank in college, and I experimented with drugs, not really at Bowdoin, but when I'd visit my friends in other places.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome. I
Yeah.
love this. And when I moved to the city, they moved there too. So I like had all these resources at my
Yeah.
disposal.
I mean, and your fingertips at that point, right?
Yeah.
So it's very accessible.
Yes. So I was like a weekend warrior for a long time. Like, I got a job at Sony Music doing business development.
So
which was
cool.
kind of cool. This was like, we do another podcast about this, but it was like when streaming just was coming out, and I was working with like the legal team to kind of hammer out how to monetize artists and like how much they're getting paid for streaming services.
Wow.
Working with Beats like pre the Apple
Oh my
purchase, which was
gosh.
cool.
Wait, that's so cool.
But anyway, so I was a weekend warrior, going back to
So you were like 9 to 5 during the week?
9 to 5 during the week. And like I kept it so clean during the week because I wanted to justify to myself I could just go out. So
Yeah.
literally Monday I'd probably be hungover from the weekend. So I would go to work. I would print out articles that I wanted to read, go to the Equinox, try to get on the treadmill, and then just read all these articles in the steam room and make myself stay until I finish all the articles so I could sweat out all the drugs and alcohol.
Oh my
And then Tuesday I would usually do a soul cycle in the morning, 6 a.m. Also just want to shout out Charlie Atkins, ex-soul cycle instructor.
Yes.
She's my girl.
Did we talk about her? No, we talked about.
Someone asked us to review Lay Sweat, and we were like,
Really?
there's nothing.
I was like,
It's great.
she's-
It's like,
she's awesome.
She's very knowledgeable. She has a great app and has great resources. So we looked it up. So we didn't end up like diving too much into it.
We were
on the
talking about
podcast.
her the other day.
Yeah, she's the reason why I really love spin. Like she was like a beacon in this like really dark time of mine. So shout out Charlie.
I love that.
And so I'd do a class at 6 a.m. and then I would like feel better
Yeah.
the day on Tuesday, and then Wednesday it was like nothing ever happened, and then Thursday would buy the
So
drugs.
then you forget the like feeling of that hangover by Wednesday, and you're like, I'm ready to go for the weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And then like Thursday, buy the drugs. Friday, be like, you know what? I know I'm going to go big tomorrow, especially at this time of year, like fall, college football,
Yeah.
day drinking.
Huge.
And I was like, I'm just going to take it easy tonight. And then as soon as I woke up in the morning,
Saturday.
as soon as Saturday came and there was those 12 a.m. kickoffs, like I was the first one in the bathroom. And I literally went all day until like 6 a.m. the next morning. And then would just like, I had a prescription like for anxiety medication that I lied about because it was a hangover cure.
Yeah.
And I would take that, and that would basically just like cut out my hangover and would just be like comatose on the couch.
Gosh.
And then
All day Sunday?
all day Sunday, and then would wake up Monday, and then this whole cycle would start again. And I literally did that. That was my life for 6 years. Like
For
to a
6
T,
years.
6 years. So when I was 22 till I was 27. So maybe 5 years.
Was there a point in those 6 years that you started to feel like, okay, this is no longer serving me? Or did it feel like in those 6 years, that's exactly what you wanted to be doing? Like you would look forward to that at that point?
So it was weird because I would obviously look forward to it, but it was the only coping strat. Looking back on it now, it's so easy
To like,
I've like re-examined my entire life
Yeah.
why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's easy now to see that was very much the only coping mechanism I knew, and I knew that it worked. So I didn't want it. Why would I do anything else? Because it was working for me.
right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't seeing consequences at that
Correct.
time. But I knew probably like a couple years in that my mom is in recovery. She's 12 years sober. My mom's side of the family is just like they say like alcoholism doesn't run, it gallops. Like
Yeah.
it's just a lot of people. And my mom was the first one in my family who got sober with the help of my dad. And that was like kind of like a turbulent time when I was a kid. And like I grew up and would like come home and like my mom's like sponsor from Alcoholics Anonymous would be there, this like 80-year-old woman. And I didn't really think about it at the time. I was
Right.
like, oh, this is just mom.
And
she's better.
Yeah.
And, would just go about my life. And so like I knew that it was a problem, but at the same time, like I didn't know how to operate life any other way.
Absolutely.
But
So
you probably also looked at it as like, I don't have a problem. I'm not drinking every day to survive. I'm not waking up and like turning to alcohol.
Totally.
So you were like, I can go 5-6 days being sober, and then I just go all out for one day, so I don't have a problem.
Totally. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
like there's people who are partying just like I was. I was holding a job, was working at my job. Like I had all these things in my life that I could point to be like, I'm not that bad.
yeah, you're like, I'm totally functioning and like I can do it. And do you feel like, of course, now looking back, it's very easy to like you said, dive in and see. Did you think you were addicted to that lifestyle at that point?
Yeah, it was. So not only was I just like drinking, using drugs, but I was going to clubs. I was spending probably between $15,000 and $25,000 a weekend.
What?
Yeah.
My heart just dropped.
I'm like, I've never seen that much money in my life.
Yeah.
I always say if someone sued me, I just go bankrupt because I have nothing to give them.
Like I knew managers at clubs, and I would have my own room, and they would let me aux cord. They'd be like, hey, this is your room. We'll give you all the booze you want. And I would be in there, and it would just be like this party from 11 p.m. until 7.
So you knew a lot of people.
Yes.
So it made that sense of that lifestyle a little bit more easy to grasp or like easy to get into because you had that gateway to like be like, I don't have to like fight my way to get into these clubs because I already knew these people.
Totally. And it was an ego thing too. So at the time, like my family owns Riddell helmets, like the football helmets.
Yeah.
So that's like my family's
Oh my
business.
gosh, that's amazing.
And at that time, my dad's private equity firm owned Harry Winston Jewelry.
Oh.
And through that, I was like rubbing shoulders with a bunch of celebrities.
Yeah.
And because I was spending so much money at these clubs, they wanted to hang out with me. So, I've signed too many NDAs, but
Yeah.
I've had a lot of, I was having these kind of very surreal, like
Life
for my memoir
experiences.
because I was the party guy
Yeah.
in these circles.
And you don't want to lose that. Like once you're the party guy and you're labeled as like this guy who like comes in and spends money and like it's flashy and fun and like the life of the party, you don't want to lose that image. You're like, I don't want to be lame one weekend and just like be like, no, I'm out this weekend. And you probably didn't have many friends being like, let's lay low this weekend. Like let's take a weekend off, because if you're the guy with the table and the rooms, like your friends are the one that's like, you're getting up and we're going.
Yeah. Well, it's so crazy. So this entire time period, I had a serious girlfriend. So I had a girlfriend in 2013.
Really?
And she was in like her group of friends. My best friend from high school went to college with her. And so I knew that group of friends and we all kind of partied together.
Okay.
And so like it was very seamless. And, it was this thing where like, because we had the same group of friends and like, the things I wanted to do on the weekends were the things with her friends too. So it like made perfect sense, even though, she saw me and I was, like to party, and there's other people in that group that did too.
Yeah.
But looking back, it was awful, but I'm sure she must have rationalized it that way for a long time.
Well, I think it's, when you're in a cycle of something that might be toxic to you, it's easy to try to rationalize it because like you said, you were like, I didn't think of anything of it because it was just my coping mechanism of what I knew worked and I wasn't trying to change it. So like, what was the point in which you were like,
what was the breaking point, and was
like
your
the
girlfriend involved in it?
The turning point.
Was she also partying as much as you were?
No, never. She drank, but she never used drugs at all. And, but yeah, no, the kind of the breaking point was like 2017.
Okay.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, I remember it was a Tuesday, and at this point I had felt so numb. Like this cycle had gone on for so long, and like, being hungover on Sundays, ended up just like partying on Sundays for NFL, and then not going to work on Mondays. And then it was like, partying on Thursday night football, and then not going to work on Fridays. And like it just like went from this one day to like my life just became unmanageable.
It's like consumed.
Yeah. And I remember just one Tuesday I went to dinner in the city with my dad, after work. Like I just met up with him and it was like super normal. And then I like called a bunch of my friends and was like, hey, like the Knicks are playing now. You guys want to like go to One Oak and like see some of those guys? And everyone's like, dude, it's a Tuesday. And, in December. Like,
Yeah.
no one wants to go out on a Tuesday. And I was like, okay, fine. And I, bought a lot of drugs and started drinking. And I went on a 6-day bender, and I didn't go to sleep for 5 days. And I woke up, basically after I ran out of drugs and money, and woke up on my couch with calls from my therapist being like, hey, Conrad, just want to let you know if you have any drugs or any baggies or anything, please flush them down the toilet because NYPD is breaking down your apartment door right now. And I was like, what? Because what I used to do is I'd just block every person's number that I cared about because I wasn't trying to talk to anybody. And
well, did you almost did that in a mechanism where you wanted to protect them from seeing you like that?
Yeah, I wanted to separate that life, even though at this point it had gotten so bad where
it was not separate anymore.
Yeah. And then the NYPD busted into my apartment. It was like a wellness check. And, my poor doorman who I'd lived with for 6 years, had to see me go in the back of a cop car. And then, I essentially was sectioned. You can't section people in, New York, but it's the equivalent is like a psychiatric evaluation, and just to make sure I was okay for a day.
Who did someone call the police on you, or did they?
Yeah, my parents.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So I was going to say, I feel like that has to, in order to have a wellness check done, someone has to call them.
Yeah. I mean, they hadn't heard from me for a week.
And that's
so
scary as a
on
parent.
that Tuesday night, what caused you to go into that full spiral bender?
That's the scary thing. Absolutely nothing. The thing about addiction is that it's not like you have the impulse to drink and use drugs all the time, everywhere. It's just when you do, you cannot stop. It's called an allergy. Once you pick up a drink or once you do drugs, then you're just off the races.
There's no off switch.
There's no off switch.
There's not oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna mix in a water, or I'm gonna go home early.
It's balls to the wall.
Okay.
And you just can't stop. It's not it doesn't necessarily have to be an everyday thing.
Right.
So that's the crazy thing. In my head, I was rationalizing, oh, it's a Tuesday night. It'll be my normal Thursday or whatever. I'll be a little hungover the next day, but obviously that's not what happened.
No.
Wow.
And so after you left with the NYPD, after that happened, was that kind of where you sat with it and you were like, okay, I feel like
I need help.
I need to figure this out?
No, so from there it was this.
He's like, no.
It was a 16-month fluctuation. So at that point, it was my ultimatum from my family you need to go to seek treatment, get help, or we're done with you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll take treatment. Went to a treatment center in New Canaan, Connecticut, and was like, man, this is awesome. This is the first time I'd been sober in so long that I was just randomly crying, and I was just feeling these emotions that I'd been suppressing for years. And, it was a crazy experience.
You must have felt unbelievable. Your body must have felt so good.
It was probably an emotional detox too, though, because you were just like you said, feeling all the feels that in that cycle you were repressing for so long, probably.
Totally. And I was in love with everybody. There's a girl in one of my rehab groups who was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yes, we are soulmates. This is this person cares about me.
Oh, that's huge.
Was your girlfriend in the picture at this time still?
She was.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
was.
Was she happy with this decision? I mean, when you went on that 6-day bender, did she know where you were, what you were doing? Or?
No, she didn't. And that was, at that point she was very scared for me, like everyone in my family was.
Yeah.
But I went to this 30-day treatment and felt feelings for the first time.
It was 30 days, you said?
30 days.
Okay.
And then I got out and I went to a AA meeting in New York City, and I was like, oh, my drug dealer's in New York City, and literally left the meeting halfway through and went out for another 5 days. So the exact thing that I did. And then I ended up, the person who I met in treatment, who was my temporary sponsor, reached out to me and was like, hey, man, come meet me in Connecticut. And so I took a train from New York to Connecticut and just crashed on his couch, and then went right back into that treatment center, to the point that the people who just got in when I was leaving, when they saw me come back, they were like, oh my God, are you here to tell your story? Are you going to show us all the things you've done? And I was like, no, I'm back here,
Yeah.
And that ended up, I was in there for 6 weeks, and then did a long-term care like treatment center in Jupiter, Florida. And then I moved out of that. I moved back to the city, and my girlfriend at the time had a internship. She was in business school, and she had an internship in New York City. So I probably needed extra care, but I convinced my parents, like, could we live together? You know, could I live with her?
Yeah. And
I moved in the city with her, and I was in this weird place where I was trying to kind of reintegrate myself with my friends, and it just felt weird after all that I'd been through.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're on different life paths at this point.
Yeah.
Well, it's just everything that they probably are still doing. You're like, just can't be around that right now.
Exactly, yeah. And I didn't have the tools to, like, you know, be around anything. And at the same time, though, I was like going to meetings, and I had like a sober coach who was like meeting me, and he would like take me to AA meetings, and I was like, oh, I don't know these people. Like, I like didn't really, like, I created every single excuse to like compare myself to everyone who I saw in these meetings.
Yeah.
Even though I was going to like meetings at NYU, and it's a lot of younger people.
Right.
And it's a really good meeting. Shout out that meeting. But I was just like, I gave myself every excuse that I didn't want to be a part of it. And I just got in like the worst. I'm diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and I was in the worst depression of my entire life. Like, I couldn't get out of bed. I was in my couch. My sober coach was like, there's a Starbucks at the bottom floor of my building, and was like, dude, just come meet me at the Starbucks.
Yeah.
And that was my highlight of my day that summer. And I was literally walking around, and I was like, okay, so I'm either going to jump in front of this subway, or I'm going to use drugs and alcohol again. And I'm too much of a coward to kill myself. So I think, and I know exactly what's going to happen if I pick up drugs and drink again.
Yeah.
But I don't have another choice.
Yeah.
And I call my dealer, and I pick up again, and it's the exact same thing. It's the 5-day. And at this time I was doing this thing. I was using Hotel Tonight. Shout out Hotel Tonight.
Yeah.
Free ads. And just bouncing around.
We don't do free ads. I'm just kidding.
Only paid.
Yeah, if you're on a drug bender, use Hotel Tonight. Just like bouncing around to the point that my parents hired a private investigator that hacked into my Uber. So they were always one step behind me. This is all from the memoir. And I ended up crashing at waitresses in the East Village's apartment for a while. And I remember we were just taking mushrooms and watching that movie Looper. And one of my counselors called me and was like, dude, what's up? And I was like, dude, Bruce Willis is young and old in this movie. And he was like,
my God.
he was like,
Oh, no.
He's like, get back here right now.
Yeah. And, again, I ran out of drugs and just like went back to my apartment, and my sober coach was waiting for me there. And he was like, just like sitting on my stoop, and was like, come on, man. And
How, in that moment when you saw, like, you had just gone on your bender watching shrooms with a random waitress, and you get back and you see your sober coach, did you want to kick yourself in the face? Were you just so like disappointed with yourself, or were you more like, here we go again?
I can't describe the shame, because I wanted to fight. It's so hard to describe, like, addiction. Like, I didn't want to
Do that.
be in that place again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, when I first started using, like, I didn't know anything else. Like, that was the only way I felt okay. Like, people in recovery talk about this idea that they didn't have a blueprint to life. Like, there's no, like I don't know how to navigate life.
Yeah.
And, like, the only times I feel normal and I'm not crawling out of my skin was when I was drinking and using drugs.
Right.
And, like, that's when I felt okay to just be myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't want to give it up. And at this point, my girlfriend at the time was back at school, and she was, this is how messed up it was. She was back for her niece's birthday party, I think. And when I used, I was like, okay, so I'm going to start on a Tuesday, and then I'm going to go for 2 days, and then I'm going to have Thursday night and Friday to just chill out, and then I'll be totally fine to go to my girlfriend's niece's birthday party on Saturday.
So that was you planning it, like
Yeah.
premeditating.
Totally. And we went to my parents' house in Bronxville, and my girlfriend at the time met me there, and she just looked at me, and she just looked more broken than I'd ever seen anybody. And she says, Conrad, I love you, but I just can't do this anymore. And it was that moment that I had this call it spiritual experience, where I saw how broken she was and how much I had hurt her.
Yeah.
And saw like in the future that if I kept doing what I was doing, like just like substitute anyone that I care about in that same position.
Yeah. So that feeling, that effect like that you had on someone, and thinking about, okay, this could be my parents, this could be anyone else I love in my life. It's probably a really scary feeling too, because you're like, holy shit, like all of these things that I've been doing, I thought it was just
affecting me.
And a lot of those actions, you like at the end of the day, you're like, okay, this is affecting other people.
Yeah.
So after that, was that kind of like...
That was it, because like I'm very much an empath. And so
when's your birthday?
March. I'm Pisces, March 3rd.
I'm a Pisces.
Yeah, go fish.
I was when you were an empath, I was like, he's definitely.
I was like,
either
you're
Cancer or
definitely
Pisces.
a Pisces.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
But I was like, this is like this, like that. She was the only person who I cared about more than drugs, and I lost her. And so, in a way, it was kind of the best and worst thing to happen to me, because the fact that if she had stayed with me, it almost enabled me to be like, okay, well, I must not be that bad. And
exactly.
So it was the best and worst. It was the worst day of my life, but it changed the course of my life. And at that point, I was like going back to treatment. And I went to treatment in Camden, Maine, with all these just like wonderful Maine, just like, it was like all these women who were like 40, like just like single moms. And they just like, I was really broken. Like at that point in time, I thought I had like, I was never going to find love again. And I had all these like women just like nurse me to health, and like
they were just like, it's okay.
It was the best place I could have been in that moment.
Okay.
And when I talked to my counselor at that time, I was like, I can't move back to New York when I leave here. It's too many people, places, and things for me. Like, I want to give myself the best shot I can at staying sober. And she was like, okay, where do you want to go? I was like, well, maybe Boston, but not the city. Like, I want to be in the suburbs, because I don't want to be anywhere. Like, I want to just like be Bumble, Bumble. And she was like, okay, well, I know this one sober house in Lexington, Massachusetts. And I was like, okay, that works for me. And I went there. This was like right the week after Thanksgiving, so almost a year ago. And actually just like literally a year, like from this week, I went to the sober house in Lexington.
Oh my God.
And, I stayed there for 10 months, and I just like went there, and I was just like, I don't know anybody, but I just like was like, just tell me what I have to do. Like, because clearly my way is not working here.
Okay.
And I just like went to meetings, and like they took us to meetings in Boston, and I was like, okay, I as an empath and someone who's like very introverted, like I didn't even attend my own birthday parties. Like literally my parents would have birthday parties as a kid, and I would just kind of peek, and then me and my best friend would go open presents. And
you're like,
oh my gosh,
it's just too much.
So I went from being that kid, who I still am at heart, to basically like introducing myself to strangers at 30 years old.
I love that.
29 years old, being like, hey, how you doing? Like, are you, what's going on? Like, can I get your number, all this stuff, which was so uncomfortable, but the desperation I had was crazy. And that was over 3 years ago at this point. And, since then I started work. Well, I took like a year. My first year of sobriety was just like learning how to live life, and really like doing a lot of work on myself, and just like kind of, which is so hard to look at yourself in your parts and your places and things that you did, and kind of like seeing the causes and conditions of why I acted the way I acted.
Yeah.
So it was just like a lot of introspection for like a year, and therapy, and the second year I was like, okay, well, I should probably try to contribute to society again. And I started working at the sober house once I left, and which was awesome, because it was like just helping other people who literally were in the same seats as I was.
Yeah. I mean,
there's nothing more rewarding than that. And then you must be so proud of people when you see them succeed and like move on to other places.
Totally.
And
or work alongside you and help coach people through a really dark time in their lives, showing like this will get better if you're open to it.
Exactly. Like I just wanted, like I remember how scared I was, and to be like a representation of someone who has gone through that and made it okay. Like if I could give that kind of relief to anybody, like that's everything.
I think that's so important too, because I feel like seeing yourself in someone at like, you know, in any of those sober houses or any of those AA meetings, if you see someone that reminds you of like them of you, you're like, well, it humanizes you and it makes you feel like, okay, if they're okay, I can be okay one day. 100%. Like it'll be okay. So was it at that time when you moved out here to around like the suburbs of Boston that you found like fitness even more? Did you get back into it?
So my relationship with fitness I kind of had to like reframe it.
Okay.
Because
it's not as a place to like sweat it all out, sweat out the drugs and stuff.
Yeah, because I would double SoulCycle classes with Charlie. She did a 6:30, 7:30 at the NoHo studio, and I would go religiously, and I would be high as hell off Adderall, and because I was trying to catch that buzz until the weekend.
Yeah.
And so I was like trying to catch like a runner's high, and I was like just basically trying to.
You were like everything.
Your heart was probably like, please stop.
Yeah.
Like the Adderall, the exercise.
Honestly. Yeah, my friends call me Mr. Life Alert because they were afraid that my heart was going to stop.
Literally, that's scary.
Yeah. And so when I got sober and started doing fitness again, I was like, okay, well, it's never going to feel like, it's not going to feel like it did. So it took a while to get back into it, but spinning was like the first thing that I tried to like reacclimate to because, you know, in like the heart of my addiction, I was, you know, probably 75 pounds lighter than I am now and not healthy. And because I wasn't eating. And so I was like, okay, I want to like feel better about myself and feel better about my body and feel like I can do things and move, but not try to put like those standards on myself that I was very hard on myself.
That you had like prior
Yeah.
to getting back into it. And I think it's hard to get back into fitness, especially when you have this preconceived notion of what it used to be. And then when you're entering like post becoming sober, you could be post like any life-changing event. Totally. It can be really a different reframe.
Totally. And I think accountability too is a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Like, part of the satisfaction was the workout and the endorphins, but also it was like I told myself that I was going to this 9:30 class and then I did it. You know, like I followed through, which something before I got sober was like, you know, I was a flake.
So it's one of those things where I feel like, do you think it helped you grow as well after your sobriety? Like after you came into it, you were like, okay, I'm growing as a person too, because I'm showing up for things that I'm going to show up for.
Totally. And I think it basically, once I like reframed and remodeled my relationship with spinning and with exercise in recovery, like I could apply the things that I was doing to kind of things I was doing in recovery. Like when I, you know, am trying to ground myself, like by meditation or going to a meeting or something, like work exercise is the same thing for me. Like if I get very anxious and like I'm not where my feet are, like if I'm just somewhere else, like if I'm, you know, just have to focus on doing a sprint or, you know, a jog. And also spin too has been this thing where, you know, loving music and working in music and
totally
like if I could not, people who exercise, sorry if this is anybody who's listening, people exercise without headphones, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. Like that dictates how good my workout's going to be.
100%. Good music.
Yeah.
Always.
And so like that combo in spin too is like awesome. It's
well, that's why instructors are so important too. Like which instructors play. Their instructors' music. I love the person as a person, but if I don't vibe with their music, sorry, it's not going to be. It's a no from me, dog. You know what I mean? I've taken like 60 bespoke classes, but I'm like on like hitting like 1,300 SoulCycle. Yeah. And I created like this, I call it my ratio, and the ratio is this little inside baseball. When I take spin classes, it's the quality of the music to the choreography. So like if the choreography is really hard, then the music has to be good. Because like you're not going to make me do some crazy shit listening to, you know, like some slow ass like something
like horrible
Taylor Swift. You're like press, push, crunch, push. Yeah.
And you're like, you're kidding. Like I want you to play music that makes me want to run through a brick wall full speed and not be afraid.
Yeah.
Like that's what has to happen.
I know obviously you don't miss your past lifestyle in any way, shape, or form, and you come to who you are as a person now, sober and like living your best life, do you miss the music industry?
I don't. I honestly, I can say, obviously, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
I don't like. There was a time before I took the job at Sony, I went out to LA because Monty was like, "Lamb chop, I can't." Like, and at this point, this was before labels started making music or started making money. Like they were still in the red.
Yeah.
This was prior to streaming, being.
Like Spotify,
Yeah.
Apple, all
This was
those.
still the 99-cent
Was
era.
Napster
Yeah.
a thing back then, though?
This was post. I'm not that old.
Okay, because I was going to say, wasn't Napster like the first
Yeah.
stream? Like,
LimeWire was,
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But he was like, I want you to go out to interview to be the executive assistant to this guy, Ty McKay, who runs the LA office. And I flew out to LA for this interview, and it was like this like game. It was like, okay, like I'm going to give you tickets to see The Weeknd at the Hollywood Bowl. And I was like, that's sick. And I was by myself, and we went to the concert, and he was like, okay, well, like, let's go out. And like, I went out, and then like, he was like, okay, I'll meet you at 7 a.m. like the next day. And at like the farmer's market. And like, I was like, what? And like, this was like when I was like in really my dark days.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing kind of, that was like a machine, like to operate that way, to operate in that industry where, most of the things that get done are in like an extreme social setting.
Yep.
I know there are people for a fact that navigate that sober, but even at that point in my life when I was still using drugs, I was like, this is going to get too dark for me too fast. Like I'm way too, like I felt like when I would take a weekend off, like I would just like crash on my parents' couch.
Yeah.
And just like look at my mom, like just like scrolling through like treatment centers. Like I look at that now and it's like really, really dark. But
Yeah.
I knew back then that like not having support systems in LA, like
It would have.
Yeah.
It would have been really difficult
Yeah.
to get out of that cycle if you had been across the country.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's it's so amazing that you have found solace in fitness again and combined two
And,
things
like,
that
peace.
you love.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that music that literally sparked that original joy in college. And now you're here and you've found spin, and it's something that really helps you clear your mind and catch your breath and be like, okay, like everything's good.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people can feel that way too about fitness.
Yeah. And do you know what part of social work you want to go into? Because you're in grad school at BC for social work, which is incredible. I applaud you.
Thank you.
Do you know what area of social work you want to go into from post-grad?
So the reason I went to get my MSW as opposed to like a PhD or a PsyD is because, one, it's only 2 years and you get back into the field faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for me, my kind of long-term goal is to be a therapist, primarily for kind of, young adults suffering from addiction and like a dual diagnosis too, like either from trauma and also substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's like the long-term goal.
So you want to give back
Yes, 100%.
to the people who helped you.
Yes.
Yes.
That's incredible. And I think that's very like beautiful that you're using some of those really dark times that you've had to go through in your life to help others. Like that's so commendable and amazing.
And the fact that you're even, like you said you're an introvert, but the fact that you were even willing to come on and share your story, because you never know if someone else is going through something and might need someone to lean on, or might need fitness or might need whatever it might be.
There could be people listening right now that didn't realize they were in some sort of cycle like that.
Totally.
And needed to hear someone else's point of view or what someone else went through to be like, oh, like this is how I feel. This is what I'm going through.
100%. If you're somebody who is doing coke in the bathroom during St. Patty's Day and just come from Stats and thought your heart was going to explode and you felt awkward about coming out of that bathroom because you're, in a pre-party, like, talk to me because I was in that position. I had a lot of friends from college.
Absolutely.
And I think, we don't touch upon it as much on this podcast, but I think it's known, a lot of people get into substance abuse in a casual setting, and it doesn't seem like it's a problem if it's only this and there and here and there, and it's not always. But if it's something that you're relying on every weekend, that might be something that you need to look further into, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think hearing it from someone that is on the other side of it and has navigated through it is so much more helpful than listening to someone that has not.
Exactly.
Totally. And, you know, one last thing I'll say is that listening to my story just now, like, clearly there were times I was not willing, even though going to treatment and stuff. So, you know, I'm not here to take anybody's inventory or what's going on in their lives. Like, who am I to judge? But at the same time, it's just like, you know, if you want help, and if you're out there listening and you feel alone, you feel like no one's gone through what you have gone through in life, like, I can guarantee you someone is there to help you. Like, there's nothing that you have experienced that there's no one else in the world who's been like me too, no matter how dark you think it is.
Yeah.
And like, I assure you that.
Absolutely. And
well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
that is so powerful.
I mean, your story, I'm sure, speaks to so many people. And, you know, I think it's just amazing that you were able to come on here and that you were willing to come on here to talk about it with us, but also all of our listeners.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Conrad, you are the best.
You are the best and just such a ray of sunshine. So
seriously, I'll always play Drake for you.
Thank you so much.
I'll play Loyal tomorrow morning for you.
I love Loyal.
I love that song.
If anyone does want to follow you just to see like what Conrad is up to, or come take spin with Carly and maybe you'll be there. I know I've taken plenty of spin class with Conrad in class before. But do you want to share your Instagram or any way for you?
Yeah. I'm not really posting on my grid, but I'm at RC Drizzy.
Amazing.
Love that.
I like that a lot.
Drizzy Drake.
Yeah.
Just like
I
Drake.
love it.
Well, thank you again, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. We will be sharing everything that you need to know about this podcast on our Instagram, Eat the Damn Cake Instagram, or Eat the Damn Cake podcast on Instagram. And yeah.
Love you all.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Have a great day.